What?
Yeah. Hi everyone, this is our week 3. By now you're, fat burning machines. The engine is working, not on all cylinders yet, but kind of getting there.
Yeah.
And at this stage, your metabolism should be more flexible in utilizing fat for energy than before, right? And most of you, I haven't talked to everyone, but most of you that I ask pretty much told me by now, at least mentally, they have this leveled energy, clarity and leveled energy. And so all those are good signs of being keto adapted, meaning at this stage, the body oxidizes more fat and makes ketones out of it because our brain cannot use glucose, it cannot use fat, cannot use proteins, but it can use either glucose or ketones. And since we're not eating glucose, so where the energy comes from, well, it has to come from ketones, right? And frankly, from now on until pretty much the end of the program, you're not going to be the same person. Like you feel differently mentally, physically, your metabolism shifted, right? And this is kind of pretty exciting part. And I'll let Lian to say her few words. And I just wanted to review for me personally at this stage, make sure that we understand, what's the objective for next, week or so. But I'll let Lian.
Yeah. So day 1 of week 3. Week 3, guys, is, as you know, is going to be the same as week 2. So this week should be a lot smoother. You should be feeling much more leveled energy, and your body is adapted to a certain degree, so it should be much easier. That doesn't mean you won't have the odd temptation, or you won't feel, that you might want an extra little something here and there. This is when your mind will start to try to get you to negotiate. You'll try to reason why this should be fine and talk yourself into all sorts of things. But this is where protein is absolute. You stay the course, and you'll start to see the rewards become more and more clear as time goes on. Weeks 4 and 5, after this week, we're going to be having 2 fast days a week. But by that time, it will feel the same as it does this week. You will adapt. And usually we have, right, Andre, we should have people asking us if they can do 2 fast consecutive back to back. People are asking if they can skip a meal, things like that. So this is where you start to see the real sort of progression and changes. Quite a few of you have lost between 1 to 3 pounds, which is perfect. A couple of you, I think, initially were expecting to perhaps lose a little bit more in week 2. But as I've said, week 1 was about fat adapting. The goal was not to lose any weight. If some of you lost weight, it's water weight. And quite often people would gain back the water weight in week 2, and then it would level off and you'll start to see the decline in your weight if fat loss is your goal. But I just want to caveat that with, sometimes fat loss is not the first thing on the agenda for some people, depending on what you have going on, right? The body's very wise, and so it's going to prioritize things in a level of importance. If there's other things that need to be going on or that need balancing or correction, those things will definitely take precedence. And people are approaching this from a different place. We're not all coming in at the exact same level. So some people might have some additional health issues, or they might have some digestive issues. They might have some extra stress, certain things going on in their lives. And so it's not going to be the same exact journey for everyone. And even for those of you who've done the reset before, just because you've done it once before, it doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same, because you're in a different place and things change. But the body's wise. The body's number one goal is to keep you alive and to rebalance. And homeostasis is that balance. So if you're in good health, you're in good balance. And so that's always the objective. So there are a lot of things that are happening that we don't see on the surface level that are to your benefit. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Because although most people want to lose a little fat, or maybe a little bit more than a little bit of fat, there are a lot of other benefits that are taking place. So I just wanted to point that out. Does anyone have any questions about the week that just passed or week 3 coming up? I think at this point, most of you have a pretty good idea and are becoming quite comfortable and quite good at putting the meals together.
Okay, so a few things I wanted to sort of explain at this stage how it works more or less. So in the end of the day, it's all comes down to energy balance. Calories do matter. Not every calorie is the same coming from certain foods. Certain foods like protein, for example, 20-30%. When you consume protein just of energy, total energy goes towards digestion and processing that protein. So not as opposed to table sugar, which is maybe mostly goes directly to energy. So not every source of calorie is the same, but the calorie is the calorie. So if the objective is to lose weight, lose fat, we have to be in some form of caloric deficit, right? So this is important. If my objective would be to lose fat, essentially I would minimally checking myself on the scale in the beginning of the week and the end of the week to see, the progression or not. But also I think it's a good idea to kind of like a daily, first thing in the morning, before you like go to the washroom, do your thing and just put yourself on the scale. At least you see the direction, right? And you can make the tweaks. Because if your objective is to lose fat, and you're not losing it, you have to see. Don't wait a week and then find out you didn't lose anything, right? At least you're going to see. And so, again, as I mentioned, it's all about energy balance. If you want to lose weight, the energy has to be low that you consume, that you burn, right? So since we're not touching proteins are absolute. We're not really eating carbs. Where are we getting most of the energy? We're getting it from fat. So if the objective is to lose fat and you're not losing any, like that's why you need to put yourself on the scale, then you have to look into reducing your dietary fat. As we mentioned, and we're cutting the consumption of olive oils, all those normal fats, by half, as Leanne discussed, and it's all in the booklet. But there are also some, hidden sources of fat that you don't think about. When you cook, right? How much fat do you use when you cook? What's the source of protein? Dark chicken versus chicken meat versus, chicken breast. Fatty fish versus not. So there's all those little things that you should consider that you think you're eating protein, but they come with quite a bit of fat. It only matters if you not in this 1 to 3 pounds of loss of weight a week, and if your goal is to lose fat. If your goal is not to lose fat and you're happy with your progression, keep doing what you're doing. It's more for those who are, just make sure you're on the right track. To understand, it's all about energy balance. And the good thing what we've done so far is we open the valve of your body to metabolize fat. So your body really knows now, more or less, it's, could it do better? Yes. A tricky adaptation takes, a few weeks, even longer, but it's good enough for your body now to be able to access your stored body fat. And this is why from now on, if the goal is to lose fat, we should start reducing the dietary fat, make sure it's less, to be in that energy deficit in total. Another thing, we often make, and I used to make it myself for, long time until I realized my mistake is when you fast for, a day or two and you come in out of fast, I say 24-hour fast, what we tend to do, we tend to overeat, right? We eat way more than we should because we haven't eaten and you just try to overconsume. Well, those extra calories, they're gonna be stored in you as fat. So for the next, little while you don't eat for the next 24 hours, I know how long, as opposed to storing your own stored body fat, you're just going to be burning through the extra calories that you stored from that extra large meal that you ate coming out of fast. So even you coming out of fast, your first meal should be like a regular meal, eat until you're satisfied but not stuffed and walk away, right? So that way the body can still tap into your stored body fat and draw that extra energy from them. Jan?
Yes. So I think what Andre's saying is accurate, but I don't want, the only thing I will add to that is I don't want people to be thinking that they need to not have that one healthy fat serving in their olive oil. I think the approach is that the way that I've designed the food is that if you're having your tablespoon of olive oil and you're having one healthy source of fat and you're having your 2 to 3 low carb vegetables, then you're going to, everyone's doing this by now, you're roughly getting an idea of how many grams of protein you're receiving from those, and then you know what you're left with. So little things like just not having the skin on your meat or having skin on chicken and things like that. So most of the cholesterol your body makes is made in your liver. It's not from your food, but saturated fat does matter when we look at overall health and heart health, right? So little things like that. So when he's talking about choosing your source of protein, I don't want everyone to get overly worried. If you want to have chicken, you can have chicken. Just little things like maybe just not having the skin on it, or if you're having a nice piece of red meat, just not having, enormous amounts of fat with it, like a really fatty cut. But if you're having your one healthy fat serving, like half an avocado or an ounce of nuts or seeds, these are really healthy fats. And as long as you're staying within those parameters, what I see with people is you're losing that 1 to 3 pounds of fat per week. The issue is if you're not losing at least 1 pound, then you're going to come back to me. And Andre knows, and I know from experience, that when someone isn't hitting that 1 to 3 pounds per week after they've fat adapted, it's usually because they're overestimating how many nuts they can have or cheese. And I'm not talking about cottage cheese. I'm talking about the hard cheeses, all the other cheese. So if you notice that, usually we look back and we'll see that they're either over consuming nuts or cheese, or a little bit of their, whatever they're using to cook their food with. But all of you know, because I've looked at your meals, you're all counting that in your food prep. So all of you that I can see are using your olive oil or avocado oil to cook your food with, and you're allocating that towards your healthy fats. We don't want you to lose more than 3 pounds per week, because then it's going to be some lean muscle. So the window's not that big, right? So at this point, going into week 3, you've kind of figured out how to put your meals together. You've gotten comfortable enough with your choices. And so you know, right? If you're starting to see some weight come off, if that's the goal or not. For those of you who actually, a couple of you don't want to lose any fat, and that's why I've said, continue to use the 2 tablespoons of olive oil, continue to use your one healthy fat serving, and then we gauge it. So like Andre was saying, if by the end of the week, you don't see things moving one way or the other, that's when you reassess. You can always reach out to me. I'm here. But the first thing you're going to look at is, okay, am I making sure that I'm having that 1 ounce, or am I overdoing the nuts? Am I overdoing the hard cheese? Those are the 2 things that usually get people in trouble. Does that make sense? Good. So, for example, like Andre was saying, dark chicken meat does have more fat, but it's also a little bit more nutritious. So it's about balancing out your meal, right? I just want to balance that with, we don't want to reduce our calories so much that we slow our metabolism down. I think Andre and I put together a really good plan where if you're eating the right amount of the macronutrients that we recommend, as long as you're making sure you're following those recommendations, you should be fine.
Yeah. So just to add something about metabolism, your metabolism is directly related to your lean body mass. So if you eat enough protein and you maintain your lean body mass, you can lose fat, but as long as lean body mass stays the same, your metabolism stays the same. It doesn't change. It doesn't go down. So hence high proteins.
Yeah.
And strength training to keep that metabolism up.
And the other thing is getting the steps in, right, guys? Or going for a walk after you have a meal if you can. Weather's not always great. Just getting up and moving really helps as well.
Yeah, definitely at least 7,000 plus, equivalent steps a day. It's a must.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Perfect. Lots of nods. Chris, where's Mitch tonight? He's missing in action as well?
He's skiing with some buddies.
Great.
I
Okay.
thought he texted you or emailed you, sorry.
That's something I couldn't, I thought it was business. That's great that he's skiing.
Yeah,
For
I
him.
think he's just a little worried because they're all drinking and eating well.
Oh no, he's being tempted. Yeah.
But he knows that he learned from last time, so he knows what to do. And I think we want to try to make this more adapted to a lifestyle rather than like not like strict, but
Yep.
learning things for the future. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what's important.
Yeah. Excellent.
I just want to say that my husband is literally going through junk food and eating it right in front of me as we speak. He's so mean. I'm like, go somewhere else. He's like, no.
He didn't want to sign up.
You hear the bag? Do you?
No, he's a.
No,
No.
he's not gonna say. Stop.
It's your brother, right?
It's my vice brother, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know. We both have to put up with him.
He knows you're talking about him now. So I think, Andre, everyone seems to be doing well.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to be, I mean, I'm looking at everyone's food logs. We're discussing different options. Everyone seems to really, really have it underhand this week. So I'm very happy to hear that.
And usually this is when it beginning to happen. Like, by the end of second week, beginning of third week, that's where things starting to click.
Yeah.
And you feel different, you like that mental energy, and all of a sudden, the weight started to go down. You like everything started to come together.
And I'm hearing lots of, people are sleeping better. They have less aches and pains. They have less, symptoms on their skin or other issues like that, that you tend to get used to. They become almost like second nature, even if they're not pleasant. So that's good to hear. Are a lot of you, anyone noticing that they're sleeping better besides the few have told me? Allison's shaking her head no. What's going on, Allison?
It's a long-standing issue, and I'm hopeful this and some other things will help it.
The sleep?
Yeah, it's just been, I've
Okay.
had a really stressful year and my sleep kind of vanished.
Okay,
So,
well, you know what? I'm going to message you with a couple of things
okay, that'd be good.
that have nothing to do with the reset, but that help with sleep. So
Thank you.
I'll get that
Yeah,
taken care
ironically, I'm also doing a sleep program through my doctor's office at the same time as this. I'm like, I'm going to be a whole fantastic new person.
Well, also just remember when you're rebalancing too, it's like sometimes you go on vacation, and you have a really crazy 6 months or a really crazy year, you go on vacation, and then it takes you a few days or halfway through your vacation to realize how tired you are. And then that whole healing thing happens.
Yeah.
But sleep really is what you need. Sleep really is
Sleep
great.
is the best.
Yeah. So I'll message you out.
I've always slept really, really well, and I'm having trouble sleeping now because I have so much friggin' energy. I can't settle. Like I get into bed and I'm like, oh, you know what? I could actually just finish that off tonight. And up I go, and yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. So you're noticing a lot more energy, Judy?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Like this morning I was up very early, a lot earlier than I normally am. I went to Net to work out. I'm doing my fast today. If you had told me this 2 months ago, I would have jumped off a bridge. But I'm feeling great, really good.
Yeah, and not to get into your personal stuff, but you weren't having tons of energy prior, right?
No, not at all. No, I'm not in pain. It's just I feel like muscle burn, so I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent. That's what we
Very
want.
much so, yeah. I can actually feel my burn going right now, just lying here.
Well, that's the goal. I mean, that's what I was talking about when I said it's not just about losing fat, right? There's a lot of other health benefits.
Yes. Oh, my inflammation's way down for sure.
Yeah. And that's very, very common. And you're just at the beginning of, literally at the very beginning of week 3, guys. So you'll see. Hi,
Yeah,
Mark.
so
I do have a
Martin,
question. Oh,
no, go, Martin.
yeah, I have a question regarding, because I guess I missed that or I misunderstood regarding the healthy fat. So it's 1 tablespoon per meal. And that includes whatever is in the cooking of the meat or, so basically, if I understand well, if I grill meat, it's on non-stick pan with 0 fat if I'm going to have a salad on the side, correct?
Yeah, I mean, typically what people do is they use a little bit. You have the option of having 1 tablespoon of olive oil and then using another tablespoon of oil of your choice as your healthy fat, for example.
Oh, okay.
But what most people do is they use a tiny little bit and mix it around the pan, and then they might not necessarily have a salad with that particular meal, or they do. They just sort of balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I also have to be aware of the fat that's in the actual food that I eat. Part of that one.
I don't want you to worry about that. What I'm saying is if you're having, because if you're having 1 tablespoon of olive oil, which is very, very healthy, right? You've got the oleic acid, you've got the vitamin E, et cetera, et cetera. You've got even the skin has phytonutrients, right?
Yep.
That's going to help with inflammation. That helps with triglycerides, et cetera, et cetera. And then you pick one additional healthy fat. As long as you're staying within those parameters, I have not seen people have an issue with what they're choosing as their protein source.
Okay.
What I'm recommending is that you not have, if you're having chicken, you don't need the skin like chicken wings.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to be aware, right? But again, this goes to having good quality protein, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you can do a keto diet where you can eat any garbage fats that you want, and then you could also, have very low protein. That's not the goal here, right? So your protein is absolute. I'm just saying that, Andre, because I don't want people to get obsessed about what they're
No.
protein, right? It's
I
very
just
important.
wanted to say that I only was coming from perspective if someone's goal is to lose fat and they're not losing 1 to 3 pounds. That's what they should do. But if you're losing, or if your goal is not to lose fat, or you don't care to measure yourself, you keep doing what you're doing. Eat the skin, eat whatever you want. I'm just more giving, kind of tips for those people who do want to lose fat, do lose it. So.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and I just, because I'm seeing, I know that if people choose those 2 healthy fats and they have their 2 to 3 low carb vegetables, which helps fill you up, right? Aside from all the other benefits it's going to give you, it also is part of satiating you. And then you have, your 60 to 7 grams of protein, obviously minus the protein you got from your healthy fat source and your low carb vegetables. You're going to be fine. You're going to hit that 1 to 3 pounds a week. That has been my experience. So, Andre's not seeing what people are eating on their logs and stuff like that. So he's really talking about the odd person. I think we've had maybe 2 people who weren't losing fat, right? But once I look at their meals, it's been overuse of the nuts, having more than that 1 ounce. And sometimes having too much hard cheese can do it as well. So those are usually the 2 culprits, which is why we've given you that number. We've said we want you to have 1 healthy fat serving with plus your olive oil, because we know that that's going to be our gauge. That's going to help us either increase the amount of fat you're losing or decrease it if you're losing too much, right?
And Julia, I wanted to comment on the energy. So there's 2 aspects to it. One, overall, when we're in caloric deficit, it's has an anti-inflammatory effect on the body or chronic inflammation. And
Okay.
also, ketones are known to be a cleaner energy source.
Oh,
So they
interesting.
generate less oxidative species, called ROS, reactive oxidative species, something. So it's overall, there is an anti-inflammatory effect being keto adapted in eating healthy, keto diet, and just by consuming less calories, which we do on this program, that also lowers the inflammation.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
loving it, whatever it is.
It's basically, it's less mess to clean up, right? When you're using the ketones versus,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And
I
also,
think, yeah.
go ahead, Andre.
No, I just I see Ronnie has a question. Maybe Ryan can answer. He put it in the chat.
Ronnie?
So I'll verbalize what I wrote. You previously mentioned that you'd rather us not drink during meals for the reasons that you explained, which makes sense. I find that in order to reach in most meals, in order to reach the protein requirement of 70 grams per meal for males, I need to use the protein powder,
Yes.
which I'm using. But the way to use that powder is to use it with fluid, and that's during the meal. So does that not contradict each other?
So what we've said in the past is, maybe we didn't talk about that at the beginning of this one. It should be in the package, but all you want to do is have it at the beginning of the meal. And then if you can wait about 10 minutes, and then you have the rest of your meal. It's the best way to balance it out. If there's something that you eat, guys, like fruit that digests quicker than protein and fats, you want to have that at the beginning of the meal. You start that digestive process. You just don't want to have it at the end of the meal. Fruit in particular, although people tend to like having dessert and have their fruit at the end, but actually it digests very quickly. So it will start to ferment and sort of have to wait for the other foods to move along. So.
And the same with the protein drink, you're saying?
Absolutely. Any
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of fluids or fruit. I was just using fruit as an example, but any kind of liquids. And of course, if you're eating and you need to have a sip and you want to have a little bit of water, the idea is not to, some people like to have copious amounts and like to wash down their meals with fluids and things like that. And that's the other extreme that we don't want. Obviously, if you need to have a sip, I don't want you to have a dry throat or, choke or anything. The idea is just not to overdo it. And, when you can, you really want to be drinking your fluids between meals. Yeah, rather than with.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
I do that protein myself, and I found that doing it before meal, and then as Leon said, 10-15 minutes before you eat a meal, my stomach just feels fine. But if I do it after, because I want to get my high proteins, yeah, it doesn't feel right. It just feels bloated and not uncomfortable.
Yeah. Ariella, do you have? Sorry, Ronnie, did you have one more question?
No, I just wanted to quickly comment on what Andre said. I did exactly that, and that's exactly how I feel now. So
There's something to it, yeah.
I'm sure you're right to do it before the meal, and then you feel better.
Yeah, I'll go back. I'm going to go back in, Ronnie, to the package and make sure that I've noted protein shakes in particular before a meal. Because I think I might have just mentioned, just drinking fluids in general. So I'll double check that for you. Ariella, did you have a question?
Yes. Okay. So just to clarify, because I tend to throw everything into my salads. So I tend to have salads all day long. So for example, tonight I kind of had to wing it and throw something together. So I cut up a bunch of veggies, like I had cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, onion, radish, whatever. Threw it all in there. Some lemon, a little bit of olive oil, like not even a tablespoon probably. I threw in some of those lean turkey pepperette thingies that I eat, and then I kind of tossed it all together. But I also threw in some cheese, like one little rectangle thing of cheese, and
Sorry, what was it?
like a rectangle, like a Cracker
Oh,
Barrel,
yeah,
little
one of those. Yep, packaged. Okay.
yeah, the pre-packed, because that's what we had. And then I took like half a handful of walnuts and threw them in there because I'm like, okay, walnuts are good. Again, winging it. And then I'm like, I don't know if this is enough. So I took a quarter cup of cottage cheese and I had it on the side. But now I feel like that's way too much.
So okay, so the cottage cheese is not limited on the program.
Okay.
Very high in protein.
That's why I put it there, because I knew I needed more protein.
Yeah. Tends to be lower in fat than some of the harder cheeses. So if you refer back to the fat table, I've put a note underneath it that cottage cheese is not limited
Yes.
unlike the other, okay? It sounds like you had, the walnuts maybe were a little bit over, right? If
Okay, and then that's
you
about
had the
it.
cheese and you had your olive oil, and then you had your cheese, and then you kind of probably could have stopped with that instead of throwing in the walnuts. Now, the other thing is, guys, it's okay to have, a combination, have a tiny bit of cheese and a little couple nuts, right? Like when I give you, 1 ounce, when I say 1 ounce of nuts or 1 ounce of seeds, that doesn't mean you just have to choose one. And you could, you could have half an ounce of nuts. So maybe instead of a handful, you have half, which it's about 2 tablespoons, right? Depending on the nut. It's going to be,
I find that for me, I need that crunch. Like I need that
yeah.
crunch. I love croutons in my salad, or like what I need that crunch, and I'm not. Something's missing, and I don't know how to find that. Right?
So I would suggest then leaving out, the cheese and throwing
Cheese.
in some, hemp seeds or, whatever kind of seeds you like, pumpkin seeds, and then having your nuts, right? And give you that crunch. Yeah.
But is that a pretty like balanced protein
Which,
situation? What I just like the salad I just had.
yeah, so, like there's always good, better, and best, right? So the only thing that I would note based on what you told me is maybe, the pepperettes are great, but not all the time, just
It
because
was a
highly-
winging
right.
it. Usually
Yeah.
it would be like a chicken, or like usually I have like chicken breast or whatever, but
It's
one of those
acceptable.
days.
It's just, you know this already. It's going to be a little more processed. It's going to have some nitrates. It's going to be a little higher fat. So again, it's about balancing. I don't want you to be afraid of having pepperettes because that works, but maybe don't have it every day, obviously,
Yeah.
right? You want to find that balance, right? The more you can choose natural, live, and good quality products and food free, the better, but nothing's perfect and it's okay. It's that 80-20-90-10 rule. You do your best on most days and you don't worry about. Now, we're excluding sugar on this when I say that. So, but yes, everything else sounded great. Yeah. And, if you think about why Andre and I have those healthy fats and why we've got sort of an amount attached to them, and that's because those are the ones that can get us into trouble if we're not careful. Even healthy foods, they can be extremely healthy for you, but they still have an impact, and it's still about, reducing your calories enough, your energy enough to access. We want to access our own fat stores, right? It's like we said on day one, is if you have everything in the kitchen, you're never going to go downstairs and start looking for food in the cellar, in the storage room. You'll never need to. Your body would be the same way. So if for example, when our insulin is high, our body's not going to start, oxidizing using fat when if your insulin is high, your body knows that there's energy there to be used, right? It's going to want you to use that, right? Does that make sense? So it's the same thing.
What I do have to say that it's like I think it's pretty neat how and Andre knows I'm like a carb sweets, like give me all the things and I'm good. Like it's not calling me. It's not like I thought I would miss the rice or the potatoes that I was able to have on programs past, but I kind of got over that hump week 1, and I make pasta for my kids and don't really care. Like it doesn't speak to me. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That happened.
Part of the reason, because that's typical, I'm constantly craving something. And this is part of the reason, guys, your forms are so elaborate, right? All those charts, they might be a bit of a pain to fill them out, but I see a lot immediately, like they jump out off the page at me. So then it just helps me know kind of what tips to give specific people, like kind of right out of the gate. Obviously, they're not, you still have to ask questions and talk to people, but they give you a really good idea. So if you're constantly craving things like that, it's because typically your blood sugar is going up, but it's not coming down, and sort of slowly and gradually it's kind of crashing, going up and down. And your body's going to crave that because your body's saying, I need that to have my energy back. Right. So when you cut it out and you start using, your own fat for energy, your body doesn't need it. And then the cravings go way down and you feel more satiated. So it's cool when you do it for the first time and you actually experience it, right?
And I think that's the key, I guess, because in the past when I've cut those things out, like I would get to week 2, week 3, but it's never felt like this, where I think I'm good, but I still have it in the back of my mind, like, Like in a minute. Like I'm going away in a week and a half to a retreat on the long weekend. I'm doing like a family or a women's retreat overnight, and they're gonna feed us there. The old me would have been super worried and perseverating about, oh my God, how am I gonna manage? And I'm not. It'll be fine. It'll be whatever, right? Like it's a really weird, cool thing that's happened.
Well, the protein is a big part of it, because when you have enough protein, you're satiated. But I don't want to discount, why I really like the healthy fats as well. They're really, really important, right? Our brain's more than half fat. All our cell membranes are made of fat. All your hormones, right? Everything, it's made of fat. The myelin sheath and all your nerve endings. So you need it. But when you look traditionally at putting a meal together that's going to have people feeling balanced energy and consistent energy to get them through the day, it's where's my protein, where's my good fat, and where's my fiber, right? If we flip that and say, well, what slows down the rise of your blood sugar spike? Typically, someone would tell you to have your fiber first and then your fat and protein. I don't want people, obsessing about things like that and turning their meals into a task or a chore. But I just want you to be aware that these things help keep your blood sugar stable. Even if you weren't doing this program and you wanted to have, when this program will end, not everyone will, of course, you're going to want to have some starchy carbs, complex carbs, right? Some of you to different levels, but you'll want that in your diet, and that's healthy to do. But if you're going to have that, then you would still want to make sure you have some healthy fats, right? And some good protein. You may not want to have the fats as much when you're having the complex carbs. That's for a whole other reason that we'll get into in week 5. But the point is, you want to have enough protein, you want to have enough fiber, because that's part of keeping it stable, right? Traditionally, before everyone understood that they didn't need to be afraid of fats, for many decades, people were terrified to go near fat, and no one wanted to eat enough protein because they were terrified to have enough animal products, because essentially they were scared of that, and fats were demonized. So the only thing you really could do with people was hone in on, okay, make sure you're having enough fiber, make sure you're having enough, healthy fats with your meals, and some protein, but that meant they had to eat more often because it would crash sooner, right? So now you're having enough protein, you're having the right amounts of healthy fats, and you're having your fiber. It's golden, right? And it will allow you to, like Andre is saying, your energy is going to be much more balanced. An efficient metabolism and a flexible metabolism is efficient. So it does everything that it needs to do in a much more efficient manner. That means there's more energy left for you. So you're not bogged down and fatigued by your meal. You actually should be energized by it, right? So, yeah. Does that makes sense, Ariella? Yeah, perfect. Did anyone have any issues with their fast, or did everyone have a smooth thumbs up? Excellent. What do you think, Andre?
Is there a question regarding Leanne, question regarding the fast? Is there any difference between if we do it overnight from lunch to lunch, or from dinner to dinner?
Lunch to lunch or dinner to dinner? Well, when you're sleeping, you're in a catabolic state. So if you eat your first meal and then go into your fast, you have a longer catabolic state, but you're also giving your body a rest. Your body also heals while you're sleeping. So I think that balances itself out, right? Your body wants to do a lot of catabolic state, right? Where things are being removed and replaced and renewed. So what do you think, Andre? Can you think of any reason why they'd want to do one or
thinking
the
on
other?
the grand scheme of things, I don't think it matters
Mhm.
that much, but we know that cortisol, will go up when you're hungry, and that will affect your sleep. But I'm not sure once you've fat adapted, right? So your body essentially, even though, let's say you ate your first meal around lunchtime and you're skipping dinner, right? So what time you go to bed is, 10 hours since your last meal or something like that, right? So you're gonna feel a little bit hungry-ish. But if you fat adapted, then the body will just, slowly draw the calories from stored body fat, right? So I don't think that would, and I don't know for a fact, but my opinion, if you do get some cortisol spike, it's not going to be as high as, normally would be. If you don't eat, if you're not fat adapted for that long. So will it affect your sleep? Well, try it. There are so many different fast days on this program. Try skip one, try skip another, and see what you like. Probably burn more. I don't know. I think it's like we're just splitting hairs here. Just whatever your personal.
Yeah, I
don't
prefer
think we
doing
can-
it overnight from lunch to lunch, because after time I'm asleep and not thinking that I'm hungry, or you know what I mean. It doesn't seem to affect my sleep, and then I just find it easier.
Yeah, I mean, we could put an argument forth that skipping your second meal would perhaps include a little bit more of a break for your organs and your body, and a little bit more would be able to be done. But I think it would be, minor. I mean, what Andre was referring to is that you're more insulin sensitive earlier in the day. So in that sense, it would make sense to want to eat that, first meal, not necessarily in the morning, but at night, if you eat later in the evening, you're not as insulin sensitive, right? So I guess if I personally, I would, if it were me doing this specific reset right now, I would probably skip the second meal. But if you're skipping your first meal, you're gonna absolutely get the benefits of the program. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you're welcome. And this is one of the reasons why, like in the middle of the night, when you get up, you don't want to turn on the light, you don't want to, right? You don't want to cause that cortisol rise, because it'll actually cause your blood sugar to go up as well, and then you're going to feel more hungry, right? That's part of the reason if we don't get enough sleep and we have disrupted sleep, we tend to wake up feeling hungry the next day. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions, Lawrence? No.
I had some, but you've answered them all.
Did I answer them all?
Chris,
Yeah.
do you have any questions?
Nope, sounds good.
I think it's all good, Leanne.
Okay, yeah,
we can wrap it up. Yeah.
everyone's doing well. So everyone knows where to reach me if you have any more questions, please reach out. If towards the end of the week, you notice that you're losing a little more than 3 pounds, or you haven't hit that even 1 pound mark, reach out and we'll have a quick look at your meals just to make sure that, because sometimes a second set of eyes just to see if you're missing something, right?
And just remember, it only gets better from now on.
Yeah, you've gotten over the hump, guys. The hard part was the fat adapting. So
Now we were arriving to the paradise, like the plane, like flies, and there's like we're landing. And
Chris, Mitch is
on.
seeing me right now. I'm gonna see what he's saying. All right, guys, everyone have a good night. We'll talk soon.
Okay, guys.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.